Ciao studenti e bentornati a questa serie per principianti. Welcome to this series for beginners. Today we're looking at lesson 5, good important one. We're looking at indefinite articles and I will tell you what they are because these are all kind of strange words if you're not a linguist, and you don't need to be. You can learn Italian without knowing any of these words. And so what are they? Well, in English we have them as well. You will find that many of the things that you will learn while you're learning Italian, you have them in English. And that is the beauty of comparative linguistics, where you're leveraging the fluency that you have in your language to become fluent in the other one a lot more quickly than if you were trying to understand the whole concepts from scratch. So in English, we have two indefinite articles. The main one is a. So we say things like a book, a friend, a computer. But then we have an. And we say an apple, an island. What's happening here? So we have basically, can you tell it's the same one? And it just changes so that it adapts to the sound. Keep this bit of information in mind because you will need it when I tell you how it works in Italian. So in Italian, of course, we are going to expect an indefinite article for masculine and one for feminine. Now, again, I want to step back and say, okay, I said indefinite article. What does it mean? Can you tell the difference between a book and the book? The book is specific. I want the book that I lent you. Just give me a book. I don't really care which one. So that is the difference. An indefinite article is what we use in Italian and English to be generic about the item that we are talking about. So it's any, like a book, a coffee, not the coffee, all right? So that's what we're doing. But of course, in English, you don't have gender, so you have two versions, but it's basically depending on the sound of the word that you're describing, like an apple starts with a vowel, so we say an apple instead of a apple, just preference for sound. Where in Italian, you do expect to be different because you get masculine words and feminine words, they're gonna have to be different words. So for masculine, the word that we use is un, just un, un. So we have things like un panino, a sandwich. I want to point out something that it's a little bit advanced, but I treat you like an adult. So I'm not here trying to give you a 1 minute lesson that you're not going to take anything out of. So when I say un panino, if I say it slowly, I would say un panino. But in spoken Italian, in real Italian, and we have, by the way, we have plenty of content in Italian. If you want to hear us speak Italian and use our content to learn Italian, we have plenty of that here on the channel, but also on our platform. But when I say un panino quicker, that un becomes a m sound, un panino, which is something that we do in English as well. It's really hard to have an n sound followed by a p, and that n usually becomes a little bit of a m sound, like just a little nuance, but un panino. Un portone, again, another P word, so it's un portone, a main door, un portone. So masculine words, we use un when we want to say a thing, like un bagno, un bagno. B is another sound that makes the n sounds a little bit like a m. Un bagno, that's a bathroom. Now for feminine, we have the word una. So it's not that hard because we take un, we kind of make it feminine with una. So we say things like una porta, a door, una doccia, a shower, una coperta, a blanket, una. So we have exceptions. Yes, lesson 5, we introduce exceptions, finally. So what are these exceptions for the indefinite article? Not too complicated. There are words that start with a vowel in Italian, just like we have them in English. So we already know that English uses the same idea of changing the word based on what follows. That's how Italian will work. That's how pretty much any language works because it's about sound. So instead of saying una, we are going to drop the a of una. We're going to replace the a with an apostrophe. You will learn over time that whenever you see an apostrophe in Italian, it just means that a vowel was there and now it's gone. So it's replacing a vowel. When I taught kids, I used to say, The vowel died and there's a little tear being left to, commemorate the fact that there was a vowel here once. Anyway, if that works, use it. So let's take the word insalata for salad. Insalata. We're not going to say una insalata. We could, but you know that una insalata, the two vowels are kind of so much work. We're not going to say una artista for an artist. Una artista, because artista starts with a vowel. And we're not going to say una arancia, an orange, because arancia starts with a vowel. So we are going to say, in totally random order, una arancia. So again, not una arancia, but una arancia. See how it flows a little bit easier? Un'insalata flows better than una insalata. And un artista for a female artist, un artista. So do we do the same for masculine words? Because you could guess correctly that there are masculine words that also start with a vowel. And the answer is no. And I will explain to you why, because when you're learning a language, and I love languages, you gotta know why something is happening so you never question it again. Let's take the word artista, which is a word that is masculine as well, because even though it ends with a, is a word that applies to man as well. Here's a little trick, because we're going to cover more tricks as we go. Any word that ends with ista in Italian can apply to both genders, because those are people, like a journalist, geologist, like all those ist in English. The equivalent of that is ista, but it doesn't change to isto. So I'm not un giornalisto, I'm un giornalista. I will be giornalista. The ista will not become masculine. If I apply to a male, then it is a masculine word, but it will not change the ending. But let's take the word artista, assuming it's for a male. We're going to work with the word italiano, which is an Italian person or Italian man, and we're going to work with the word armadio, which is a wardrobe. So, un artista. Why isn't there an apostrophe? What is the apostrophe? The apostrophe means that a vowel was there and now it's gone. But if the standard indefinite article for masculine words is un, nothing was lost. So, un libro, un artista. We do not need the apostrophe. Now, this one is just for spelling. So again, if you're just speaking, doesn't matter really. But this is one of the few spelling mistakes that we Italians make as kids growing up, or even as grown-ups, because we might be tempted to put an apostrophe there, but you don't need it. Un italiano, no apostrophe because un already works, and un armadio, a wardrobe. So the only difference between a female artist and a male artist is how you write it. The feminine has the apostrophe, the masculine doesn't. But again, you're speaking Italian, so you probably will never need this information. There's another exception for masculine though. Pay attention to this one because it will become a little bit more complicated when we look at the other set of articles that we call definite articles, which is the Italian way of saying the. You need to have this down really well before you move on to that one. In Italian, we have this concept of strong sounds. There are certain sounds that we kind of don't like to utter. And if you've noticed, Italian is all about the vowels, but even when you think about Italian words that you know, like cappuccino or any other word that you have seen, tagliatelle, fettuccine, whatever word you have, you can hear how there's a lot of vowels. And we have syllables, but we don't really have a lot of consonants coming together at once. English can have 5, 6 consonants and everybody's happy, nobody minds. But in Italian, we do mind. And so there are some combination of consonants that we just dislike so much that when they begin a word, they force us to change the article before. Just like in English, when we say apple, we don't say a apple, just because it's a little bit too much effort. We say an apple, it just flows better. This is something that we do in Italian for strong sounds. So here's a word with a strong sound, and that is straniero, a stranger, a foreigner. Straniero is S-T-R, and then finally the vowel A, so stra. Now, I can say stra, not a problem. Stra is not complicated, but it becomes complicated when you put an N sound before. So we're not going to say un straniero. That N stra is so hard to pronounce, even for English speakers probably. So un straniero becomes really difficult. You will never have 4 consonants in Italian lumped together. How are we going to fix this? Can you guess? We need to stick a little vowel between the N and the word stra, right? So we're not going to use un for a word like straniero, because we need to kind of make it easier for us to pronounce. Here's another one. Gnomo. Gnomo is a gnome. We're not going to say un gnomo because n and n is so difficult. That gn is one of the few spelling exceptions that you look at it and you don't know how to pronounce it. It's pronounced ny. Ny. So when you have like gnocchi, gnocchi, it's a very nasal ny. Like you gotta change your face when you say ny. Gnomo is a gnome. I can say gnomo, not too hard. When you put un before, it becomes really hard to say un gnomo. It's too ugly. We don't want to say that. Here's another sound that we consider a strong sound, and that's the Z sound, zaino. Zaino is a backpack. We're not going to say un zaino because it's difficult. You might actually argue, rightly so, Manu, I understand straniero, that's 3 consonants. I understand gnomo because it's a very strong nasal sound. It's a single sound, but it sounds really horrible. Why does the Z letter cause any problem? That is because that letter in Italian, it's Z or Z. 2 possible sounds, but in either case, it's a combination of consonants. Think about, I said zaino, zaino. If you were to spell Z, what would you do? Probably you would put a D and a Z, like zaino, or a D and an S, like zaino. So even though in spelling it's a single letter, it has a combined sound of difficult consonants or like harsh consonants. Again, totally fine by itself, but more difficult when you put another consonant before. What we're going to do is we're going to take un and make it uno. Uno, which also means number 1, by the way. And it's a card game, but uno. Careful how I pronounce it. Uno. Uno. A little warning. I know there's a tendency for beginners to assume that uno must be the article for masculine words, like una for feminine. I say una ragazza, so I'm going to say uno ragazzo. No, uno is only for the exceptions. And the exceptions are those strong sounds. We have videos where we go deeper into what are the strong sounds in Italian, but you got an idea already of what those are. So we're going to say uno straniero. Can you see how it flows better than un straniero? Un straniero, too many consonants. Uno straniero, it makes that little wave a little bit nicer. Uno straniero. Uno gnomo, uno gnomo, uno gnomo. Uno zaino, a backpack, uno zaino. What's that one? Xylofono, xylofono, it's a xylophone. Uno xylofono. So now you know that x, the X consonant also is a strong sound. Again, it's a single letter, but the way we pronounce it in Italian is x, a C and an S. X, xylofono. Imagine un xylofono. We just couldn't have n, x, x. It's too much for Italian. We love vowels. If in doubt, use vowels in Italian. That's the answer to everything. Yogurt. Yogurt. So now you know that the Y letter, whenever we come across words that start with Y, which is not many in Italian, usually the foreign words, uno yogurt, uno yogurt. And here's an interesting one, psicologo. Psicologo, again, it's a psychologist in English, but in Italian it's psi, ps, p, we pronounce p and s, psicologo. So imagine having NPS. Un psicologo would be quite difficult. Make it easy. Uno psicologo. Take a breath. Uno psicologo. You got time there, right? So, do we have the same problem with feminine words? So, there are feminine words that start with those strong sounds. The answer is no, because the standard article is already una. Una ends already with a vowel. So, we already have the space that avoids us, that prevents us from having n followed by the strong sound for feminine words. And so, we have zanzara, which is a mosquito. Even though it starts with zanzara, which is a strong sound, we already say una zanzara, so we don't need to change una. It works fine. Una zanzara, a mosquito. Una xenofoba, a female xenophobe. Una xenofoba, again, xenofoba. Horrible word. Una storia. Una storia. ST, it is a strong sound for masculine, but not for feminine. I mean, it is, but it doesn't cause any problem. Una storia. Una psicologa. Una psicologa, a psychologist. So now you try. I'm going to show you some words and you put the indefinite article in front of them. Frigo. That's a fridge. First thing you would ask yourself is it masculine or feminine? It's masculine. So standard article for masculine is un, right? So you would have un frigo, a fridge. Cucina, kitchen. Masculine or feminine? It's feminine. Una cucina. Getting it right? Forno, that's an oven. Forno. Gender? Masculine. So we use un forno. Lavandino, it's a sink. Gender? Masculine. Un lavandino, a sink. Stadio, that's a stadium. Masculine, yes? Careful here because ST is already considered a strong sound. You will find that words that start with S and another consonant, in most cases, do that. So let's go with that. Uno stadio, a stadium. Storia, it's history or story. Feminine, right? Una storia. Ascensore, it's a lift. Say, but Manu, I don't know the gender. Now, just say it. Then we'll worry about spelling. Just say it. A lift. Un ascensore. It's un ascensore. No apostrophe because it's masculine. But there's no way for you to know unless I told you. Let's say we're having a conversation. Let's go deep. We're having a conversation and you hear me say, no, l'ascensore è rotto. So now you don't know enough Italian, but we've seen the word rotto before. It means broken. We learned it in relation to the washing machine. So now I told you that the lift is rotto. Have I just told you that ascensore is masculine? Yes, I have. Because what's broken is the fridge, the lift, not me. So I'm not saying that I'm broken. I'm saying that the thing is broken. So l'ascensore è rotto told you the ascensore was masculine. So now you could use it in your conversation with me by saying un ascensore and know that it's masculine. Again, so only if you were writing, you would need to know really if it's apostrophe or not, then it doesn't matter. And we're done. Okay, continua così, keep going. We're learning so much. We're only at the beginning of this journey. I hope that you're doing all the other things that I told you in the introduction, which is spend a lot of time watching content in Italian. We are going to very soon have a lesson where I am going to guide you in the direction of where do you go to listen to the right things in Italian. But for now, just expose yourself to anything in Italian. Go to Netflix, watch stuff in Italian. Change your language for YouTube to Italian and see what's suggested in the homepage and just watch it. And just listen to a lot of Italian. Learn vocabulary. You have your apps. Use them to learn vocabulary. And I'm here to guide you with the tough stuff, which is usually the grammar. All right? Alla prossima.